Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. We have some more clarification on Enzo Maresca's future. The King, Jose Mourinho, has returned to Stamford Bridge and we're going over his pre-match press conference, and Peter Kenyon has had his say on the Jose Mourinho fallout. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. You can also use the hype button, which is a new YouTube feature which helps pushes these videos out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Matt Law has reported it is believed that players who joined the club in the summer were told that they could be confident that Chelsea would not make a mid-season change of head of coach and that Maresca would be in charge for at least the entire season. He continues to say it is understood that Chelsea believe the success or otherwise of their season could rest on how successfully Maresca can rotate his way through the Premier League and Champions League amid a host of injuries that he has been hit by. However, Imran Osman has reported those close to Maresca say he genuinely believes this squad simply isn't good enough to compete in both the Premier League and the Champions League this season. So it's nice to get some clarification, some further clarification that, you know, the board isn't going to make any rash decisions and just get rid of Maresca over a couple of poor results that we've had. We've also been hit with a lot of injuries. The board recognised that. They've even said the players that come in the summer, don't worry, you've got at least a season with Maresca because that's when we're going to review his performance over the last two seasons. And I like the fact that the club are standing on business in that instance, because things aren't horrifically wrong right now. We're going through a blip. We went through the same blip last season between January and the end of December into the end of January, and we didn't get rid of the manager. We kind of persevered with it. We had a lot less injuries. We still had injuries, but lost a lot less than what we've got right now. We weren't expecting to lose the likes of Levi Colwill. We weren't expecting to have players dropping like flies, have basically no rest of just 3 weeks after the Club World Cup win. Very, very short pre-season. And we knew, as fans, and we could all hold our hands up and say this, we knew we were going to be affected at some point from the lack of rest. We just didn't know what time of the season that was going to be. Was it going to be the start of the season? Was it going to be the second half of the season? Was it going to be around Christmas? And we still don't really know the full effects of that sort of domino effect of not having that rest. So we may be going through the worst of it now, which would be great if we are, because it means we have a long time to recover. We may go through worse things a little bit later in the season, but I find it very interesting. And I like the reports from Imran Osman. They're usually spot on. They usually kind of line up with a lot of what the other journalists are saying. Not saying that they all speak gospel, but it gives you a good sort of direction in terms of what's being said, whether you digest what they're saying. That's why I like to react to them all and get your guys' opinions. But it's interesting that Maresca genuinely believes the squad isn't good enough to compete in both the Premier League and the Champions League. And to be honest, I was confident going into this season, and we've seen what this squad can do. The Club World Cup, a lot of people are saying it fooled us. I don't think it fooled us. I think it just showcased how good we can be on the night. But I've always said, across the summer as well, I just don't feel like the squad can be as consistent that is needed to win the Premier League. I feel like the cup competitions is where Chelsea stand the best chances this season, in the domestic cups and even the Champions League, because I feel like Maresca is building a squad for the long term. But as of right now, we've showcased that we can be a cup competition team where we can do well in cup runs, because they are one-off games, they're knockout games. The league phases are a lot smaller within these cup competitions, and some non-existent, like the EFL Cup and obviously the FA Cup, right? And the Champions League is going to be interesting. We got off to a poor start in terms of results, but I feel like we actually went toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich for the first 20-25 minutes. And again, that was kind of like the epitome of, self-imploding, self-inflicted wounds, all these injuries, all these sort of mistakes, individual errors started happening, started showcasing, and we got punished for it. So I still feel very confident we can go far in the Champions League as long as we turn up on the night. Benfica is a huge test and a must-win game for us tonight, based on how the other games have gone recently. And let's be real, we're going to talk about what Jose Mourinho says in just a second, because he talks a lot about Chelsea, which is always nice to hear as fans, right? To hear the special one talking about us again. But realistically, Benfica are in a really bad run of form. We beat them in the Club World Cup. Unfortunately, we aren't playing as well. We don't have as strong a squad as we did then, without the likes of Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill and a few others. But I still feel confident that we can beat Benfica. We made a meal out of it in that game. Obviously, they went down to 10 men, which hopefully they do that again tonight, because that makes our life a little bit easier. But hopefully we can keep 11 men on the pitch. And it's silly that we have to be saying that, but we have to make sure we finish the game with 11 men. Then it's just, that can't be used as an excuse anymore. But it's interesting, and I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the board's stance on not letting go Maresca until at least the end of the season, because they're going to do that 2-year review. which is what they first said. So fair play to them. They did say that when they first signed Maresca. And your thoughts on Maresca genuinely thinking that the squad isn't good enough to compete in both the Premier League and the Champions League? Were you one of the fans that at the start of the season you thought we can go on a title charge, we can win the Premier League? Were you one of the more, what I would like to call the realistic fans who understand how good we can be on our day, but not consistent enough to win the Premier League? And do you think that we can do well in cup runs? Do you feel like we have a cup squad right now rather than a league-based squad? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Ben Jacobs has reported what Jose Mourinho said on his Chelsea return. He says, "I am feeling home. I already played here with Spurs, Manchester United and Inter, but I am not a blue now, I am a red and I want to win. I am expecting two teams wanting to win." He goes on to talk about the attachment to Chelsea and he says, "I will always be a blue. I am part of their history. They are part of my history. I helped them become a bigger Chelsea and they helped me become a bigger Jose. When I say I'm not a blue, I'm only speaking about the job that I have to do tomorrow." Jose Mourinho says no one will be bigger than him at Chelsea until they win 4 Premier League titles. He also adds, "I don't see no reason why Chelsea can't win the Champions League." Lloyd Canfield has reported what Jose Mourinho said about Pedro Neto, and he says, "Pedro Neto is one of the best wingers in the world. The national team manager is privileged to coach him. Of course, I would like to coach him." So there's a lot to break down here. Obviously, he's not going to shy away from the fact that, Chelsea is a big part of his history and vice versa. And I really like what he said. He made Chelsea bigger and Chelsea made Jose bigger. And I think it's just nice to hear, and it's always nice to have nostalgia and reminisce on the good times, because Jose Mourinho was the best manager we've ever had, and the way that he came into the club and transformed the culture and got us winning trophies and instilled this mindset is something that we're still 20 plus years later looking at and going, that's what we need right now. Now, I feel like when Jose, the first, second or third time, every time he's left, it's been a ripple effect across the fans and the players that have been there at the time. However, like the first time he left, we still continue to go on and win things. And then we've had other powerful managers come in, your Ancelottis, your Antonio Contes, etc., who have still taken that mantle, and the players in the team and the core and the spine of that squad kept that mentality, kept that culture at the club, and we've continued to win things. So I really like the fact that Mourinho taps into that and just basically says, look, I'm always a blue and I'm only talking about the job that I have to do tomorrow, and that is I'm here to win because I am the manager of Benfica. Now, Benfica are going to be on a management bounce, and I'm hoping that we can nullify it. I do feel confident tonight. I don't know why. Just got a gut feeling. Stamford Bridge, under the lights, Champions League nights. I don't know. There's just something about it, and I feel very, very confident that we can get this over the line and get our first points of the Champions League campaign in that league board. But I really like what Mourinho said. It's always nice to see him. I've seen all the videos that have been popping up of him saying hello to the staff that was still there, the journalists even spending time with those, taking pictures and having conversations. He is just ingrained and instilled in Chelsea's history and vice versa. And I like the fact that no matter what, he's always welcome at Stamford Bridge, like always, even though he has coached the likes of Spurs and United and Inter. I just think it's a really nice thing. Now, he also goes on to say that he believes that Chelsea can go win the Champions League. I don't see any reason why they can't. This is Mourinho mind games at its best, and I absolutely love it because on paper, no. If you look at the 2 times that we won the Champions League, both campaigns, we were not favourites. We were looked at to be written off very early, and we kept proving people wrong round after round after round, and even in the finals. So basing it off that, yes, there is no reason why we can't win the Champions League. However, given our recent run of form, very, very questionable, and looks like a very long, long way away. But it'd be very interesting. I like Chelsea in cup competitions. I feel like we just do our best there because it's one-off games where we can turn up and we pull out these miracle performances when needed. Not all the time, but most of the time, right? Very much like Liverpool in Europe. I think that the English clubs, Liverpool and Chelsea in Europe, are what kind of breed English European heritage. United have obviously had their moments too, don't get me wrong, but it's always an entertainment when there's Liverpool and Chelsea in the Champions League, at least in my opinion. I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding that. But he also talks about Pedro Neto being one of the best wingers in the world. Again, mind games. Now, I love Pedro Neto. I think he's actually one of our best, if not the best winger we currently have. And I think he's actually one of the older heads, one of the ones with more composure out of the wingers that we currently have. When you look at likes of Esteval, Garnacho, Gittins, etc. He's miles clear in terms of experience in the Premier League, composure, like I said, driving the ball forward and understanding what Enzo Maresca wants from this system. And that's going to happen because these other players are very new. But calling him one of the best wingers in the world is probably a bit of a stretch. But hey, I think Mourinho there is fishing in the future for the national coaching role, if I'm being honest, because that's what he's saying. Look, the national team manager is privileged to coach him, and of course I would like to coach him. I feel like Jose will end up as Portugal manager. I think he will do really well at international level because, again, He just knows how to defend. He knows how to get the best out of his players. No matter where he's gone, he's won trophies and silverware and instilled this mentality. There was a time where Jose was kind of on his villain arc. He's kind of on his villain arc, right? And I feel like he might be coming away from that a little bit slightly with this move to Benfica. And we might be seeing a slightly new form of Jose. So it'd be very interesting. It'd also be very nice to see him tonight at the game and just see what sort of reception we're gonna be giving him, because it's going to be nice for him and nice for the fans too. I will be doing a watch along later on, so if you are interested in that, make sure you are subscribed, because you'll get notified when I go live a little bit later. But yeah, I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Jose Mourinho's return to Stamford Bridge and the things that he has said. Does it take you back to a different time? Do you agree with the things that he's saying? Do you think this is all just Jose mind games? Be very interested to know your thoughts. Matt Law has reported an interview with the former CEO Peter Kenyon, and he starts off by talking the first time he met Mourinho with Roman Abramovich, and he said he kept referring to Chelsea as we. I noticed it immediately, and he was talking about the players as though they were his players and referring to the club and to the team as we. He was picking his team that he would be going out with on Saturday. We had been confident that we would get one of three candidates, one of whom was Carlo. But Jose was very different from what we'd seen and very different from the other people I had experienced. He was exactly what we needed. He continues to say the special one comment took everyone by surprise, but when you look at what Chelsea was, it immediately put us on the map. Chelsea was big in Chelsea until Jose came. I'm not being disrespectful, but our fan base had been a very traditional English fan base for a time, really great fans. But all of a sudden, that opened up and Jose attracted completely different fans from all over the world. He had an impact from that view, which nobody had factored. Now, I find this very, very interesting. Some of you may find this incredibly boring, but I remember when Jose came in and, you know, fans like my sister, who's a bit older, and my dad as well, which obviously got the household into supporting Chelsea, long lineage of Chelsea fans, if that makes sense. And I remember being younger, and still being of an age where you can have like proper conversations about football and whatnot and start still learning about the game. And I remember when Jose was appointed and my dad and my sister were like, I don't know about this guy. Who's this guy? I know he's just won the Champions League, but like, you know, he comes across very arrogant. What's going on here? Like a bit tongue-in-cheek with the whole special one comment, which I feel like Jose came in and absolutely blew the doors off the Premier League in terms of the press and that side of things, and also in the footballing sense of coming in with this aura. He came in with this aura and was like, I am here, I'm the special one, I'm going to prove it, sit back and watch. And he did, and fair play to him. I think that's why his legacy is so far stretched and how long it will go forever, because of the way he entered the Premier League with the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson and Wenger at the time, who were the two top honchos fighting it out for the Premier League every season. Mourinho comes in and goes, hold my beer, and then goes and wins it back to back. And again, his press, sort of the way he was in the press, was unbelievable, because if you weren't a Chelsea fan, and even some Chelsea fans at the time were like, who is this guy? But all of a sudden, he comes in, we have a big makeover of different players. The biggest one, and I will always remember this, was the first game of the season where Carlo Cudicini was dropped for this Petr Cech. And at the time, my dad was like, this guy better be good because Carlo's good. And my sister was, my older sister was also like, I don't really know if this guy knows what he's doing, to be honest, because Carlo Cudicini was incredible and he was our number one. And he was such an improvement on the previous number one. Who's this Petr Cech? We knew we signed him the season before. He's been injured. He's been behind the scenes. He comes in and he takes Carlo out of his number one spot instantly. Must be good. And obviously, as things develop, they kind of go, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy's amazing, because he just the charm he had used to win you over. And I think we won the first 6 games like 1-0. And everyone was screaming boring Chelsea. And Jose came out and was like, I don't care. 1-0 is 1-0. It's all about getting points on the board, and we've done that. And I was like, do you know what? I really like this guy because he just wants to win by any means. And the team just looked completely leveled up. Look unbelievable. And again, I remember my dad and my sister at the time being like, we just look transformed. And it's just, there's so much that Jose did for the club. And it's very interesting to hear from Peter Kenyon's point of view, because again, it might sound very boring, but he was the former CEO. He came across from Manchester United. Chelsea were making all these signings. Obviously, he was the right-hand man to Abramovich, etc. And just hearing their take on Mourinho, how it was almost like a fever dream. They met this dude who they had on a shortlist, and he was basically talking about and who he was going to line up with Saturday, and just the impression that he gave, that he was like, I've already got the job, bro. And I feel like Mourinho came to Chelsea at the perfect time in his career because of the heights that he achieved at Porto. And it gave him this like massive aura and pride to back himself and know that he was the special one. And again, he just continued to prove it. So I just find it very interesting hearing it from Peter Kenyon's side. He continues to talk about Jose Mourinho's departures, and he says on the first departure, that was one of the hardest conversations I've had. Telling the players that A, Jose is gone, and B, that Avram is taking over. I don't think I've seen as many football stars go ashing all at the same time. They were dumbstruck. There were two people in tears, people who wouldn't think were capable of crying. There was a general feeling like we'd popped a balloon. It disrupted us for a period. It didn't stop us because the team kept going. We got to the Champions League final, and that was about the team, not Avram. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm being honest. I'm really confident that Jose had been there, we'd have won the Champions League final in 2008. And I cannot back that enough, because I remember going to school that morning. It was super early. It was like 10 past 8. It was announced Jose Mourinho has been sacked from Chelsea, and all of us in the family were like, why? Yeah, I think we drew to Rosenborg in the Champions League 1-1. I know we had Shevchenko at the time. I think he scored the equaliser. And it was a bit rocky. I'm not saying that it was always roses and daisies with Mourinho. There was obviously rocky periods too, especially in that sort of season as well. But I was like, why has he been sacked? And this was kind of this revolutionary revolving door sort of structure that Abramovich had. He was like, okay, cool, you're not winning, bye, we'll get someone else in. And even though Mourinho had done so much for the club, he wasn't immune to that. And I mean, well, he also come back for the second and the third time as well, which is incredible to have him 3 times at the club. But I remember that first time, and I remember, I'm getting ready to go to school, and I was like, oh, mate, I'm going to get grilled by people. Honestly, I couldn't get my head around it, because at that age, all you got to worry about is going to school, try not to get beat up if you're someone like me, and football was everything. Football was everything, right? So the conversations that you have at school, even in the household, there was genuinely this like dark cloud over our household for a few days, because like, what are we going to do? Avram Grant's taken over. Who is this guy? And again, you could very clearly see the sharp difference. But like I mentioned earlier, the team had this mentality instilled. The spine kept things going, and it was just really, really like good on them. We got to the final. Obviously, we missed out through, you know, just poor circumstances in terms of when you look back, right? And unlucky circumstances. I genuinely feel for the players even now from then, because I feel like that was a team that deserved to win the Champions League then. And yeah, it was basically, again, self-inflicted wounds, didn't get it over the line. And we were playing one of the best teams in the world at that time of Manchester United, with your Ronaldo, your Ballon d'Or Ronaldo and Rooney, etc. So yeah, look, deserved winners in the end, but I felt like that Chelsea team was so good for so long over those 3 seasons that if we'd have won the Champions League, it would have made sense. And I still believe that if Mourinho had stayed there for the rest of the season, we would have got it over the line, because the players would run through brick walls for Mourinho. And I've seen since, like, even when John Terry's on like podcasts or interviews or whatever, he's saying like, oh, Jose Mourinho will call me up and I'm sitting there like tidying my house and making sure everything's perfect, and I still call him the boss. I still call him Gaffer. And he's like, John, I'm not your manager anymore, and it's been like 20 years. And he's like, but because that's just how much of an effect he had on our players and our squad. So it's very interesting hearing this from Peter Kenyon, in my opinion. And I totally agree, and I'm glad that he's actually come out and said this. Like, it was a mistake. You know, you can't go back and change it, but this is what happened. And even he said, like, you know, Avram, it was about the team that got getting there, not Avram. You could very clearly see Avram hadn't got clues, well out of his depth, and the fact that he had a squad as star-studded as he did. They were making the decisions, basically. They were picking the team, and they were going out and doing things, not what Avram Grant wanted. Because you could see through that season, there was times where Avram Grant was telling the boys what to do, and they were like, whatever, we're going to do this instead. We know how to win games. And that's where we had that shift of like player power. And then when you listen to John Obi Mikel's podcast, when he has the likes of Lampard or Terry or anyone like that around that era, that all tell you like that dressing room was warfare. Anyone coming in, like, they knew their place, and they knew that they had to earn respect to the players, etc. And they ran that club from the dressing room out, which is just interesting to see how Peter Kenyon's basically said we got it wrong. And yeah, it may be boring to you guys, and fair enough if it is, but I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Firstly, if you are a subscriber and have been for a while, are you old enough to remember this saga going down? This is something that you've just sort of picked up and read about and seen highlights of. Did you live through it? What were your thoughts when all this Mourinho came in, how he transformed us, how he left? What are your thoughts on what Peter Kenyon has said about sort of the first departure and Avram taking over and it being the team, and how they made a mistake? I'd be very, very curious to know your thoughts. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.